With the new year around here, okay, you might be making a couple of different adjustments to your diet, and potatoes have been long associated with they're a vegetable kind of in name only, right? Like the health benefits are very much so outweighed by the detriments against them, mostly because, well, they just kind of spike your blood pressure to something not too dissimilar to that of white bread, okay? But it looks like if you prepare them correctly, hey man, they actually aren't that bad for you. Well, I guess it's like, okay, everybody knows that, frying and breading a potato, probably not the best thing for you. Definitely the most convenient and most abundant way that people consume potatoes, but let's see if there's any insight on this one, shall we? Researchers in Australia. What do Australians know about potatoes? I'm a little concerned about this. Have debunked previous findings that consuming potatoes, boil them, mash them, put them in a stew, is bad for your health and increases the risk of developing medical conditions such as type 2 diabetes. A team of researchers at Edith Cowan University in Joondalup. Wait a minute. That's not a real, okay, Australia's barely a real place, okay, but Joondalup, come on, that's not a real place. Just stop it, okay? Next thing you're going to tell me is there's a koala running their head research, okay? Boy, we disseminated all of our findings via didgeridoo? Like, stop it. Just tell me how the potatoes are actually good for you. Probably have to cook them while you're, hanging upside down. You got to boil them in a toilet that spins the other direction when it flushes. Come on now. The study was published in Diabetes Care, a peer-reviewed journal by the American Diabetes Association for Healthcare Providers, and examined the relationship between the intake of vegetables, potatoes, and increase in type 2 diabetes. More than 54,000 people, aged between 50 and 64, reported their dietary intake for a long-term Danish diet, cancer, and health study via dietary and lifestyle questionnaire over 12 months. An analysis of the study led by Dr. Nicola Bondono from ECU's Nutrition and Health Initiative Research Institute found people who consumed the most vegetables were 21% less likely to develop type 2 diabetes. What does this have to do with potatoes? After adjusting for lifestyle and demographic confounding variables, yes, people who eat vegetables are generally healthy. Wow! Researchers found that while potatoes didn't lower the risk of developing type 2 diabetes, what are we doing here? They also didn't have negative effects. Okay, cool. So they're a net neutral, I guess. Like, is that the biggest selling point? Hey, potatoes won't give you the sweet blood. Cool. Great. Okay, so they're no better and they're no worse now? In Denmark. Okay, so we're listening to research from Australia about a study in Denmark, peer-reviewed by people in Australia. What are we doing? You're just bouncing around information until somebody tells you the things that you want to hear. People who consume potatoes prepared in many different ways. In our study, we could distinguish between the different preparation methods. All right, Pratik Porthal, PhD candidate who worked on the study, said in a press release. We separated boiled potatoes from mashed potatoes, fries, or crisps. Yes, if you're reading this from the UK, right? Boiled potatoes were no longer associated with a high risk of diabetes. They had a null effect. Kind of figured that. That makes the most sense, right? Porkel also noted that among individuals who took part in the study, those who ate the most amount of potatoes also consumed them with additional items such as extra butter, red meat, and soft drinks. Yes, you're mixing carbohydrates with fats, which is super haram, which are known to increase the risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Extra butter? Are you serious about that? And red meat too? Interesting. And soft drinks. Well, come on. I guess you can't go 0 for 3. When you account for that, boiled potatoes are no longer associated with diabetes. But how do you mash potatoes if you don't boil them first? So by extrapolation, does that also mean mashed potatoes are fine? It's only fries. Oh, it's only fries and mashed potatoes? Wait a minute. The latter likely because it is usually made with buttercream and the like. Oh, okay. Maybe that's why my mashed potatoes suck. I just, mash them whenever I have to cook them. Researchers at EDU also said that the findings also suggest that vegetables could play a key role in reducing type 2 diabetes. Thanks. You needed to research that? Okay. With individuals who took part in the study displaying a significantly lower risk of developing a condition when they ate plenty of leafy greens and other vegetables. Cool. Specifically spinach, lettuce, broccoli, and cauliflower. Wow, big leafy greens and also cauliflower. I don't know, man. It's kind of like a big leafy green, but it's just white, I guess. Well, that's the difference. Green, white, it's all fine. Finding that vegetables lower diabetes risk is crucial for public health recommendations, and we shouldn't ignore it. Thank you, porkle. That's why you're a PhD candidate. You've got all of the good takes. More than 37 million Americans have diabetes, but how many people eat out of bags and boxes? All of them! Every single one of them. So you should probably mitigate that by, if you're going to be consuming potatoes, don't eat them out of a box, especially a red one with a big golden M on it. I'm just saying, not the best way to consume your potatoes if you are so inclined to. Typically, type 2 diabetes develops in people over the age of 45, but yes, a lot of fat people are waddling around out there. You know, it's like, oh, that's glandular. Oh, it runs in my family. Nobody runs in your family, so why are you trying to cope that hard? Experts recommend managing diabetes through a healthy diet and an active lifestyle, although insulin and other injectable medications are prescribed in some cases. Yeah, that's for people who just don't want to do the work. But if you want to find yourself among those ranks, go for it. Otherwise, if you're going to, and you do like a potato every once in a while, don't mix it up with any fats because, that's bad juju. And we got the time, I might as well explain it, okay? Especially if you're eating something after a considerable amount of time, your body is going, it's changing over from a rest and digest mode from eating earlier in the day to just a level of stasis where it's not trying to process any foods that are in your system at the time. You break that immediately with the carbohydrate and the fat, okay? Opening up those food storage centers that are out there. Both of those things are going to go into those cells, okay? And every gram of fat that's out there has 9 kilocalories, okay? As opposed to a carbohydrate that has 4 kilocalories. And the biggest level of activation, the biggest blood sugar spike is going to be with carbohydrates. So if you're going to be breaking a fast, which is point in time where you go from activating your rest and digest system to, reverse that. It goes from a point of just quasi-hibernation in order to be activated to digest said products. You spike that high, okay, it opens up all the cells and it's just ready to go to store any of the excess energy that your body doesn't need at that moment. It's going to be taking those 4 kilocalories from every gram of carbohydrate alongside the 9 kilocalories from every gram of fat, okay, at the same time. Throw it in there for storage. So that's why when you're breaking a fast and when you're opening everything up to begin with, when you're going to be initiating a feeding cycle, hate to be all sexy with the terminology, but that's just the way stuff goes. Do it with a lean form of protein. That's why I recommend a protein shake, or just, if you want to get a little bit more substantive about it, okay, some shellfish, some fish, lean fish, I would say that, okay, or a lean chicken breast or something like that to break the fast. Or if you're a carbohydrate consumer, obviously something that has not a lot of fat in it as well, if you want to break that, like a rice cake or something like that. Or hey, even in this case, maybe a little potato that's out there to just tie a nice little bow on top of all this. So there you go, man. If you don't want to get the sweet foot and you like yourself a potato every once in a while, boil them, mash them, but don't stick them in a stew. With all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.